Hi, I'm Susan. I love to teach, I love to cook, so let's get going. Oh, and don't ever be afraid to cook. Welcome to my cooking space, the hot stock pot. Let's pick a recipe. Ooh, almond cake. Ooh, this is a great recipe. It's quick and it's delicious. All right, the first thing we're gonna do is prepare all our ingredients. And so that at the end, we'll just combine it all to make our cake. First, we're gonna do the dry ingredients. So it's a half a cup of flour, all-purpose flour. So we have a measurement, and this is the proper technique for measuring flour. So we have flour in a container, and we're gonna spoon it into our measuring spoon. We don't scoop it, because then the flour is too condensed and it's measured incorrectly. So we just tap it to make sure there's no air, and that's it. We dump it into a bowl. All right, then we're gonna do our salt and our baking powder. So it's a half a teaspoon of baking powder. So we have a half a teaspoon, and we just measure it against, like that. Make sure it's even, dump it in. Now it's a quarter teaspoon of salt. The way to measure salt or anything, like this is not over the container that you want it to go in, because what if it overflows? Then you've got an incorrect measurement. So you do it over another bowl. And then again, you just, with the flat side of the knife, you even it out, and that's your quarter teaspoon. All right, then you can dispose of whatever you're not using. All right, and then just give it a little stir so that it's all incorporated, like that. All right, the next thing is we're gonna prepare our pan. So we have an 8-inch round pan, and we have a parchment paper, a round parchment paper. And this is because the cake is very moist, and even if we grease the pan, it still might stick. So we use a parchment paper. And this is how we're gonna do it. I prefer to use my hands when I'm greasing. Some people use a paper towel. I just find it more efficient to just use my hands and then wash them. So we put a little shortening on the bottom, stick our paper to it, like that, nothing fancy, and then we grease all around. You could probably put a little more shortening on the bottom. It's just to hold the paper in place, like that. All right, and then we just grease the whole, now we just grease it like it's not even there, all over it, like that. All right, so we're gonna grease it nice and completely over the whole side, get in the corners. Make sure you're also putting shortening on top of the paper. So this is what it's gonna look like. Just like that, and done. So we set it aside and we wash our hands. All right, so from here on in, we're gonna be using a food processor to create the dough. We have almond paste, and we're gonna need 4 ounces of it. So this is a 7-ounce tube. Roughly half of it would be 3.5 ounces. So we're gonna cut a little more than half and weigh it. So we cut it. Right? We can cut the end, well, squeeze it out. So let's weigh it. This cake is made for people who love almonds. It's got almond paste, almond extract, and actual almonds on it. So it's a real almond lover's delight. All right, so we're at 4 ounces, perfect. So we put that in the food processor. You can break it up a little bit. And we're gonna pulse it with a 1/2 cup of sugar. And again, we measure the sugar just like we measured the flour, with a spoon into a cup. And even it off. Okay, and just dump it in here. We're gonna pulse it till it's crumbly. If you could smell this almond paste, oh my God, it's like marzipan. It's what marzipan is made of. Oh my God, it's so good. All right, so let's give it a spin. Now we're gonna add butter, 1/2 cup, which is 1 stick, and in chunks, of course. I'm using regular salted butter, 1/2 cup. Now we're gonna add 1 egg. We have 3 eggs, 3 large eggs. We're gonna add those one at a time. So 1 egg, and it's one at a time. And the reason for that is to make sure that each one gets very incorporated. And it's, you know, it's a good cake, you know, if you need a dessert right away, if company's coming over last minute and you have, you know, nothing to serve. All right, 3 large eggs, one at a time. Incorporate thoroughly. Okay, next comes those dry ingredients that we did earlier, and we're just going to add them gradually as we run this. You just don't want any lumps. So we've incorporated all the dry ingredients. What I'm going to do is scrape the sides just as you would if you were using a mixing bowl. Get all the flour that flew up. Make sure it's all incorporated like that. We're also going to add a 1/4 teaspoon of almond extract. A little extra won't hurt. Make sure to get all of it because it's so good. I'm going to get this little bit that escaped. All right, so we've poured the batter into the pan. We're going to try to even it out. We're going to tap it a few times so that it evenly spreads out. So now we're going to take a 1/2 cup of sliced almonds and 3 tablespoons of granulated sugar. We're going to make the topping. So I like to do it half and half. So we do the almonds first, all over, and then half of the sugar. All right, so we're good to go into the oven. Doesn't that look great? Woo. And what I like about it is it's small. So, you know, it's just like a snack cake, but it's so good. All right, see ya on the other side of the bake. All right, we're out of the oven and we're ready to taste. But first I want to explain how I got it out of the pan. So we let it cool for 30 minutes, then I ran a knife around the edge. I took a plate and inverted it onto the plate, and then another plate to get it right side up. And it came through just fine. So we're gonna taste it now. Okay, so we're gonna cut it. Yum, oh, the texture is so dense. Oh my goodness. Oh. Amazing. I'm just going to add a little whipped cream. Look at this. Look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? Now, you can warm up a little jam, like raspberry jam or blueberry jam, in a small pot on the oven and drizzle it over if you want a little, if you want to take it up to another level, but this is pretty darn good. Oh, this is so good. It's so nice and light, but it's light, but it's got a ton of taste to it. Oh, you gotta try this. See you next time. Quick, one more thing before you leave the video. Before, when I was making the cake, I mentioned that I was adding regular salted butter to the cake. And in fact, it's unsalted butter. So use unsalted butter. It says so in the recipe. Enjoy!